Lately, we have been on the hunt for a more affordable alternative to the name brand power stations that we frequently review. And a lot of you guys have been in our comments recently pointing out the brand Oupes. So today we got our hands on the Oupes Mega 3, which for the record is actually called Opus.
It's Opus.
It's Opus.
It's Opus.
I think Oupes is better, but it's Opus. So we've been playing with this thing for a little bit and we've put it through some tests to find out if this is in fact an Oupes or if it might be the affordable solution that we're looking for. But as you guys know, here at the lab, our opinions cannot be bought. So before we jump into the results of the testing and everything that we like and don't like about the Oupes Mega 3, we're gonna jump into a super quick 2-minute spec teardown for everyone that is not already familiar with the Mega 3. We gotta pick a name. First up, this thing passes the tiny baby lift test even though he currently has a broken back and is partially out of commission. It only weighs 86 pounds, which is actually pretty impressive. It's pretty much the same everything as a Delta Pro, and a Delta Pro weighs 100 pounds. It's a 3072 watt hour battery bank with a 3600 watt pure sine wave inverter with a peak of 7,000 watts. It has a standard AC input of 1800 watts. It should be able to charge fully from the wall plug in your house in about 2 hours. And it has a solar input of 2100 watts, which is actually not bad for a unit of this size. So that should be able to charge in just under 2 hours via just solar. The Mega 3 has 5 120 volt upside down house plugs on the front, as well as a dedicated 30 amp, which is actually a true 30 amp plug, which I love to see. We have a 12 volt car socket right here, as well as 2 barrel connectors. We also have an Anderson port, 4 USB ports, and 2 USB-C ports. On the booty right here, we have the battery expansion port. You have 2 really interesting fuses for the AC input and the AC output. They're like traditional house breakers built into the back of this thing, as well as your solar connection and your AC connection, which to note is the same AC connector as the Delta Pro Ultra. So like 99% of power stations we have here at the lab use the exact same cable. This one doesn't. The screen is actually really nice on this guy. I have no complaints with it. It tells me exactly what I want. Nothing more, nothing less. It is just a little hard to see from angles though. You can see even on the camera right now, it's like really dark. You can only really visually see it head on. As soon as you shift to one side, you can't really see it as well. And the app on this unit is good. We got a suitcase handle on the front, very mimicky of the Delta Pro, as well as a sweet set of rims on the back. There's also bump stops, which you guys know I love. So this unit is able to be stood up just like a Delta Pro, except this one, you won't destroy the handles because it actually has a proper set of bump stops on the back. And you can get all of this for $2,249, which is like their list price, which we all know no power station company in the history of time has ever sold it for their list price. It's on sale right now for about 1,700 bucks. And if that is the sale price that it stays at, or it's the real price that is fake, that is also real, like every other company does, 1,700 bucks. What I'm trying to say here is 1,700 bucks. That is a good deal for this. So most importantly with a unit like this, before we get into what we don't like and what we do like, we need to just rule out if this is in fact an Oupes of a purchase. So we ran it through some baseline testing that we like to run basically all of our power stations through here at the lab. And we started with efficiency. This unit has a 3072 watt hour battery. So we hit it with a 2,968-ish watt load. So it should have lasted about 62 minutes. It actually lasted 53.5 minutes, which means it's about 86% efficient, which is not terrible. That's on par with all of the like name brand power stations for the most part. Something to note though is that it did die at 2%, which I do like. It threw an error code basically saying like, hey, it's out of battery, but it saved 2% of its battery to keep the fans running to cool it back down after the testing, which if you saw one of our most recent videos on the all powers, it did not do. The all powers just overheated, shut off, and then kept getting hotter because it was turned off. So the fact that this actually reserves a little bit of battery to keep itself cool and not just deplete to 0 and shut off is a feature that not even some of the EcoFlows and Anchors do, which I do. That's like an actual good safety feature. And to counter that though, it did throttle voltage near the end. If you look at the time lapse, you can see it go from 2,900 way down towards the final few percent. It was just pulling voltage like crazy to try and get this thing to last. So if you were running something that's a little bit more like demanding of the power, you would probably notice like the lights would start to dim, or you know, your computer wouldn't work properly, TV would just kind of shut off, that kind of thing, near the bottom of the battery capacity of the Oupes. In terms of surge, this unit barely surges. As soon as you run it over the 3600 watts, it does it for like a snap of a finger, and that's it. It says it's rated up to 7,000. This is not a unit that's gonna be very forgiving if you accidentally push it just past the 3600 watt limit. In terms of charging speed, this is a pretty standard 1800 AC input, and it went ahead and charged 2%, because that's what it died at, to 100 in just over 2 hours. So pretty much right on par with what it advertised. In terms of solar input, it works. It has a 15 amp max, so you're either gonna need to have panels with a little bit lower amperage or a little bit lower voltage to be able to stack it to get the 2100 watts into this unit, but it is doable if you have the right gear. In terms of pass-through, this is one of my favorite things. If you're running your computer off of this and then it starts running low and you just plug it into the wall, 120 volt inlet, a lot of units surprisingly don't allow AC pass-through. So this unit does, and it does the exact same thing with solar. It passes the pass-through test on both ends. And in terms of sound, this thing sounds just like a Delta Pro. It sounds like a computer running at full tilt. But it's not that loud. It's about medium. I'd give it a medium. It's about as loud as Tiny Baby crying for his morning snack. So when it comes to a unit like the Mega 3, you get it for cheaper because a lot of the components and the parts and stuff like that are cheaper. Like, it has the weird house style breaker switches, it has Anderson ports on it. It's not the most like groundbreaking technology that they include in this unit. And for that, I was expecting to not love it. Regardless of however it performed, I was expecting not to love this unit. But when it came to making a list of what we like, it's actually a huge list. I'm actually really impressed with the Mega 3. And I think one of my first favorite things with this unit is that each of these plugs individually is 20 amps. A lot of other power stations, they'll give you like groupings. If you look at like even the Delta Pro Ultra, F3800, behind the Delta Pro Ultra door, each one of those doors is a 20 amp plug. So the 20 amps is getting split between the two outlets. The F3800 does the same thing. Whereas here, each individual plug is 20 amps, which I like to see. I didn't expect something like that on this cheap power station. I also like that it came with a load of cords. A lot of power stations are really lacking when it comes to what is included. This having Anderson ports and some weird dated stuff on it. It's not that dated, but it's just not current. It came with cords for everything. There's nothing that you need to do that you didn't get a cord for, which is a huge pro. I also really like that this thing is a lot lighter than I expected. Like we already mentioned, it's like 15-ish pounds less than a Delta Pro, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is quite a significant amount. When you go to pick this up, it's noticeably lighter than a Delta Pro, which is just nice for everyone. At 84 pounds or whatever it is still heavy as. It's not light, but it's lighter than 100. And something else that's weirdly on the what I like list is that this unit forces you to set the app up with Wi-Fi right away. A lot of other power stations, basically every power station we have here at the lab, I skip the Wi-Fi setup part. I go right to Bluetooth. I start messing with stuff. I can't be bothered to type in the password every time because our password is the factory mumbo jumbo letters and numbers mix that everybody's is. I normally skip that, but this power station said no, you have to type in the password if you want to set up the app. If you're gonna do something, do it right. So I did. And what's really cool with that is that once you're on the Wi-Fi, it actually opens up a bunch of features that you wouldn't have had access to with just the Bluetooth. For example, this thing and the app is compatible with Google Home and Alexa. I could see that being cool if you had this in like an outbuilding or something like that. You want to make sure everything is off if you're using it in the garage, even in just like the RV. I don't really know, but it's cool that it has these features and it doesn't let you join the app in a way where you can't take advantage of all of the stuff. And the final two things that we actually really like about Oupes as a brand is that we were trying to figure out how to say the name, so Tiny Baby gave them a call.
How do you say the name? Is it Oupes?
Oupes.
Oupes. Okay, cool.
And while he was on the phone, he figured, hey, we already got you guys here. We've been filming a video recently where we're kind of like deep diving into different companies and calling them, asking a bunch of questions. So we were in the mood. So he started pretending he was a customer that was trying to buy a unit, talking to customer support and kind of poking around, asking like, what's best for me? How does this work? How does that work? Making sure that people are educated and they know what they're talking about. And we actually got a surprisingly good result from this company that we haven't even gotten from some really big companies where as soon as you call support, you know, the whole conversation is going in the toilet. Tiny Baby was on the phone with someone, he said it was in California?
Yeah, 30 seconds I was on the phone with somebody in Florida. They verified that the warehouse was in California. They answered all my questions very quickly.
Tiny Baby was a happy boy, let's just put it that way, after the phone call. And the final thing is that Oupes actually has a help project, which I really hope is real, because a lot of companies do shit like this where they say they're donating to something and they're not. They have a help project where 5% of the proceeds go towards donating units to people in need. If someone has like a oxygen machine or whatever, any kind of situation where you might actually need portable power, they donate power stations to those people, which seems super cool. I don't think any other company's doing that. As long as what they're doing is really happening, 2 thumbs up. And so here is what we don't like and is kind of an oops. To me, every power station company that is not EcoFlow or Anchor or Jackery, pretty much, is wanting to be them. And when you go on the Oupes website, it's more of an oops. The whole website is basically a recreation of EcoFlow's website. And I get why, but it doesn't give me confidence at all. If I was a consumer looking to purchase this product, it looks to me like you're just copy and pasting things from other companies trying to make your shit look legit, and it's not. I am genuinely impressed with the performance of this unit, but if I was a regular customer like you guys and I went on their website, I'd be turned off immediately by the fact that it just looks exactly like EcoFlow's website, like exactly. Just try a little harder. I don't know, I'm just sick of everything always looking like EcoFlow and Anchor and Jackery.
Every image is the same.
Yeah.
Same Photoshop rendered piece of shit.
Yeah. To pair with that, this unit advertises peak shaving on their website, but there is no peak shaving functionality on the app, which is just kind of a little bit of a buzzkill. You buy something like this thinking, hey, I'm gonna use it to save a little bit of money or whatever, and you can't. You can, but you have to do it manually, which is just a lot of work. Most people don't manually peak shave, so that kind of sucked. We also don't like that while this unit is expandable to actually a pretty good degree, you can't scale the inverter. So for example, with the Delta Pro, you could have a Delta Pro, a couple expansion batteries. You can then plug the Delta Pro into another one, and instead of getting a 3600 watt inverter, you get a 7200 watt inverter. This unit is unable to pair with another unit, so you can expand the battery bank, but you can't expand the actual physical output of the ports, which is just something that I wish you could, because aside from that, it does pretty much check all the boxes. And the final thing we don't like, which is probably dumb, but is something that I noticed, is these hard plastic wheels. A lot of companies are doing like a nice rubber wheel nowadays, and this picks up your hardwood floors if you drag it around your house. So just note that, not a fan of the hard plastic wheels. When it comes to comparisons, obviously this unit stacks up pretty well against the Delta Pro. This is the main reason that a lot of companies actually exist in the first place. Not saying that Oupes did that. Some other companies publicly advertised that they did. This is a sweet unit. The Delta Pro 3 actually just came out, which means EcoFlow has absolutely dropped their pants on the price of this guy right now. It's still a little bit more expensive. It does have the expandability of the actual inverter itself. We have an entire video on the Delta Pro. If you guys are interested in that, go ahead and check it out. Otherwise, the other unit that we actually really did like when we made our video on that I would compare this to is the Zender Superbase V. This has a lot of useless features like autopilot. You can control it, drive it around from an app. It's got mega lights on the front of it. The price is confusing. It's always fluctuating, so I don't even want to say it, but generally, this is also a pretty good buy. It has a little bit of a bigger battery and inverter, right? It's a little bigger on both ends than the Delta Pro and then the Oupes. It's kind of a fun little unit. It's also one that we've made a video on if you guys want to check it out. This unit is, though, an absolute land yacht. It is extremely heavy and long, and it's always in the way. And to close this video out, honestly, for the first time since us being on the hunt for a more affordable power station, this one is not an Oupes. It's actually not a bad little unit. We're gonna say it. We haven't said it yet. I would recommend the Oupes Mega 3, dude. It's not a bad little unit. I like the way it looks. I like the way it performs. For the price, it's not bad. It's better than a lot of the other ones that we've been sifting through and not recommending when it comes to trying to save some money. So good job, Oupes. We should actually get our hands on a bigger one and a smaller one to make sure that like the whole family of Oupes units performs this well, not just this guy. Otherwise, that is all we got for you guys. I will catch you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out and stay charged.